Imagine this, a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific, no longer than your neighborhood street, suddenly transformed into one of the deadliest landscapes in World War II. Waves of Marines push through rising tides, bullets slice through the air like razor wire, and every inch of sand hides mortars, mines, and machine guns. Nothing about Tarawa is simple, nothing about Tarawa is survivable. Yet thousands will risk everything to take it. Because losing here would mean losing the Pacific. Hello, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most brutal, unforgiving, and fiercely contested battles of the Second World War. The Battle of Tarawa, a clash that tested American resolve, Japanese defenses, and the very limits of amphibious warfare. The story unfolds in a world of interior and exterior tensions, inside the minds of soldiers who knew the odds and outside on the battlefield, where every step forward came with a price in blood. The interior struggle is the human fear, the doubt, the desperate will survive. The exterior is the island itself, a fortress of coral, sand, concrete, and fire. The story begins months before a single Marine reaches those hostile shores. The United States has been pushing across the Pacific, island by island, trying to break Japan's defensive ring and secure airfields that will carry them closer to the heart of the empire. Tarawa, part of the Gilbert Islands, becomes a focus not because of its beauty, but because of its value. Beachhead, the main island, is small but holds an airstrip fiercely protected by thousands of well-entrenched Japanese troops. The commanders of the Imperial Japanese Navy know that losing Beachhead means losing the doorway to the Central Pacific. So they turn it into a fortress. They build bunkers with steel reinforcements, lay out interlocking fields of fire, and position heavy guns that can tear through landing craft like paper. They believe it cannot be taken, not in 100 years. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the United States prepares for what will become one of the most ambitious amphibious assaults in military history. The Marines train relentlessly, studying maps, rehearsing landings, loading equipment, and planning each phase of the attack with meticulous detail. From the outside, it seems like confidence. But inside, the doubt lingers. Tarawa is unlike other islands. They know the Japanese commander, Admiral Shibasaki, has vowed that 1,000,000 men could not capture the island. And though Americans do not believe the number, they understand the message. Tarawa will be a kill zone. The night before the landing, the Marines aboard the transports feel the weight of what is coming. Some clean their rifles one last time. Others write letters they might never send. The ocean around them is calm, deceptively calm, as if unaware that by sunrise it will churn with exploding shells, sinking craft, and the screams of men fighting for inches of ground. One Marine later recalls staring at the silhouette of the islandness, and realizing how small it looked, how impossibly narrow, how clearly trapped they would be once they stepped onto it. At dawn on November 20, 1943, the attack begins. Naval guns roar, sending massive shells toward the island, blasting bunkers, setting fuel stores ablaze, and shaking the earth. Bombers sweep overhead, dropping ordnance that kicks up pillars of smoke and sand. From afar, it looks like nothing could survive that bombardment. Some Marines watch the firestorm and whisper that maybe the defenders have been wiped out. Maybe the landing will be easier than feared. But appearances are deceiving. Deep inside the reinforced bunkers, Japanese troops wait in silence, untouched, ready. When the bombardment lifts, a chill settles over the assault force. This is the moment. The landing craft rev their engines. Officers shout last-minute instructions. The Marines prepare to step into the unknown. The first wave begins to move toward the island, unaware that the tides will betray them, unaware that the coral reefs will trap their boats, unaware that Tarawa is about to become one of the bloodiest tests in the Pacific. As the first wave advances toward Beachhead, the Marines soon realize the sea itself has turned against them. The tides, expected to rise high enough for landing craft to glide cleanly over the coral reefs, remain stubbornly low. Higgins' boats scrape against the jagged coral, grinding to a halt far from shore. The officers must make a terrible decision: wait for a tide that may never come, or order the men to disembark and wade hundreds of yards under heavy fire. The call is made. The Marines step into the water, rifles held over their heads, and begin a slow, perilous march toward the beach, becoming exposed silhouettes against the shimmering waves. Within seconds, the Japanese gunners reveal themselves. Machine guns open fire from hidden pillboxes, their barrels spitting long, uninterrupted streams of bullets that tear through water and flesh alike. Mortars begin to drop shells with terrifying precision, sending geysers of seawater skyward. Artillery roars from deeper inside the island, pounding the exposed troops as if the entire landscape has awakened with a single deadly purpose. The Marines push forward, chest deep in water that turns crimson. Some sink beneath the waves, struck by unseen rounds. Others struggle to keep moving while carrying packs that drag them down like anchors. The scene becomes a nightmare of chaos. Marines clutch wounded comrades, dragging them through the surf. Officers shout orders drowned out by explosions. Landing craft burn behind them, sending black smoke curling into the sky. Everywhere, men dive for cover where there is none, instinctively trying to escape fire that seems to come from every direction at once. The Japanese defenders, secure inside concrete bunkers, fire with confidence. They have prepared for this moment, and now they unleash the full fury of their carefully orchestrated defense. A few amphibious tractors, the LVTs, manage to crawl over the reef, their treads grinding across coral that destroys wheels, but spares the tracks. These vehicles become the lifeline for many Marines, carrying them closer to shore under constant fire. But even they are not invincible. Some are hit and burst into flames, spilling their passengers into the surf, yet every surviving LVT pushes forward, delivering clusters of men who sprint across the final stretch of beach, while bullets snap overhead. When the Marines finally reach the sand of BTO, they find little comfort. The beach offers no real cover, only shallow depressions and the blasted wreckage of earlier landings. Japanese machine guns continue to rake the shoreline, forcing the men to dig frantically with their hands. Helmets, anything that can scoop sand fast enough. The air is thick with smoke, sand, and the acrid stench of burning fuel. The exterior world becomes a blur of fire and movement, while inside each Marine battles a rising tide of fear, adrenaline, and determination. The only way to survive is to keep advancing, to crawl forward even when logic says to stay down. Small groups begin to form fire teams, inching toward the nearest bunkers. They throw grenades, fire rifles, and call in support from offshore ships. The naval gunfire helps, but it cannot distinguish between friend and foe once the Marines are this close. The men feel the shockwaves of friendly shells landing just yards away, a constant reminder of how narrow their margin of survival is. Every bunker becomes a fight within a fight, each one requiring grenades hurled through firing slits, satchel charges placed at entrances, and flamethrowers unleashed in desperate arcs. Despite the carnage, footholds begin to emerge. A patch of sand secured here, a bunker silenced there, a shallow trench turned into a temporary command post. Officers take stock of what's left of their companies, and try to piece together new lines of attack. Communications break down, and runners are sent through areas still under fire. Some do not return. Others arrive out of breath, delivering vital information that keeps the assault moving. As more waves land, the beach becomes crowded with wounded Marines, damaged equipment, and men seeking shelter behind what little remains intact. But with every passing minute, the Americans learn more about the terrain, identify weak points in the Japanese defenses, and push beyond the killing zone of the shoreline. The cost is horrific, but the will to move forward remains unbroken. As the sun climbs higher over Beachhead, the battle shifts from the chaos of the shoreline to the brutal struggle for the island's interior. The Marines, soaked, exhausted, and shaken from the landing, now face a labyrinth of trenches, wrecked structures, and near, invisible firing positions. The Japanese defenders have interconnected their strongpoints with tunnels and covered lanes, allowing them to appear and vanish like ghosts. For every bunker destroyed, another seems to awaken, pouring fire across the sand. The Marines realize that taking Tarawa will not be a swift victory, it will be a yard-by-yard, bunker-by-bunker ordeal. Inside their minds, the Marines grapple with the shock of what they've already endured. Many have lost friends within minutes of landing. Some have had to step over comrades lying motionless in the surf, unable to stop and help. The emotional weight presses on them as heavily as any enemy fire. But exterior reality leaves no room for hesitation. The heat intensifies. The stench of smoke and death lingers in the air, and the island's narrow shape forces the attackers into concentrated paths, where machine guns wait like traps. Still, fire teams continue to crawl forward, each man relying on the one beside him. The breakthrough begins at several key points where flamethrower operators and demolition teams concentrate their assault. Flamethrowers arc toward bunker openings, sending waves of fire that turn the tight interiors into infernos. Satchel charges are dragged forward under fire, tossed into trenches, and detonated with earth-shaking force. Each explosion rattles the island, sending debris raining down and silencing another knot of resistance. These actions require immense courage. The men carrying flamethrowers know they are prime targets. One bullet can ignite the fuel they carry. Yet they move forward relentlessly, burning paths where rifles and grenades cannot reach. Gradually, the Marines push inward, carving out small defensive lines that begin to connect into a unified front. Coordinated attacks start to replace desperate improvisation. Officers reorganize squads, assigning new leaders to take over where others have fallen. Naval gunfire shifts deeper inland, pounding remaining strongholds. The island trembles with each shell impact, and the Marines follow those blasts, using them as opportunities to advance before the defenders can recover. The sound of battle becomes constant: rifle cracks, machine gun bursts, the thud of mortars, and the distant rumble of offshore ships, creating an unbroken symphony of war. As the fighting continues into the next day, exhaustion becomes a universal enemy. The Marines find themselves fighting in close quarters, sometimes mere feet from the enemy. Japanese soldiers launch sudden banzai charges from hidden positions, attempting to overwhelm Marine lines in furious bursts of violence. These attacks are met with disciplined fire, grenades, and sheer resolve. Each clash leaves the ground littered with reminders of how fierce and unyielding the defenders are. Even wounded Japanese soldiers continue to resist, refusing surrender and choosing to fight until their last breath. By the third day of combat, the tide finally shifts decisively. The Marines, now reinforced and supported by tanks that made it ashore, begin crushing the last major pockets of resistance. Tanks roll through barricades, machine guns blazing, while infantry fan out behind them, clearing trenches and securing bunkers. The Japanese defense, once coordinated and formidable, becomes fractured and desperate. Individuals and small groups continue to resist, but the organized defense Shibasaki had built starts to crumble. And yet, even in these final hours, Tarawa refuses to fall quietly. A few groups of Japanese soldiers make final stands inside heavily reinforced positions. Marines must eliminate them one by one, using tactics honed through relentless combat. The island that once looked tiny now feels endless, every corner hiding one more threat. But the Marines keep going. They know the mission cannot fail. They know the price already paid at the water's edge demands that Tarawa be secured. Finally, after 76 hours of brutal, continuous fighting, the guns fall silent. The surviving Japanese defenders lie dead, their vow to fight to the last fulfilled with chilling accuracy. Only a handful are captured alive. The Marines, covered in grime, sweat, and ash, stand amid the shattered remains of Betio. What was once a fortress is now a wasteland of broken concrete, scorched sand, and twisted metal. Victory has come, but at a cost that leaves even seasoned veterans shaken. As the smoke drifts away and the magnitude of what has been achieved settles in, one truth becomes clear. Tarawa changed everything. It revealed the savage realities of modern amphibious warfare. It taught the United States critical lessons that would shape every future Pacific landing. From the Marshalls to Saipan to Iwo Jima. And it demonstrated that even the most fortified island could be taken through courage, sacrifice, and relentless determination. The Battle of Tarawa stands today as a brutal test of will, a symbol of what it took to move across the Pacific, and a reminder of the extraordinary price paid by those who fought on a strip of sand, barely big enough to appear on a map.